So we still have positive sun, and we still have the sun's base point or sun's vanishing point hitting the horizon line. So you could put sun's VP and base point next to it. Now, what we try to do is we try to avoid putting objects directly underneath it, or even close proximity to the horizon line. Yes, you can do that, but it does diminish the dramatic look of a shadow if you place your object too close. So you already know how to do shadows for a basic box, so feel free to do that. Remember, each post is independent. When you're drawing shadows, each post or each vertical is independent of the others. Okay, so here is this line represents the shadow for this edge here. And I'm going to keep all the shadows with the red line first. And then I will solidify it after all the shadows are done. But I will make them a little bit darker. Okay, so here's a shortcut for people that have probably already thought about this. So we already know that the shadow for a horizontal edge is contingent on the vanishing point that created it. Okay, so the shadow here for this edge is contingent on the right vanishing point. So if I already know where this top edge is here, if I know where this corner is right here, all I need to do is line that up with the right vanishing point. I don't have to draw a line from the sun to the top of that post to draw that angle, because this is already going to the right vanishing point, and if I did, it would wind up exactly in the same spot. It would wind up exactly in the same spot. So that's the shortcut. But the only issue with doing this is these angles, again, are so acute that you got to make sure that you're spot on. They're so acute, and it's easy to get misaligned. So sometimes it's best just to use the sun anyway. Because mine is actually right here, and yeah, I do have to fudge it a little bit to make it work. So sometimes it's best just to do what, instead of taking the shortcut, because again, you could get misaligned. Okay, like that. So again, the process of doing these shadows is the same. Use the sun's base point through the base of the post, and then use the sun or the light source through the top of that vertical. Okay, so here's the basic shadow. Let me erase this discrepancy. There we go. Now the process of doing a shadow for these flaps is exactly the same that we did before. When we have an awning or like an L-shaped plane, and this is basically an L-shaped plane, but it's actually up at an angle. But the process of doing the shadow for this is exactly the same as what we had done before. Now, the difference between doing it in 1-point perspective versus 2-point perspective is the actual perspective. So this one is done in 1-point perspective. So in order to find out where this imaginary line is, or this ghost line, so we can figure out where this imaginary post, because it's in 1-point perspective, I need to use the vanishing point that created it to, I need to consider the 1-point perspective, because if I need to figure out where this post is, I have to come out at 180 degrees, just like this one, to figure out where that post is, because this is in 1-point perspective. Now, in 2-point perspective, we need to consider the fact that we can't come out at a 180 degree angle. We actually have to use the left vanishing point, or the vanishing point that has created this plane, to make it work. So if I have this, you can see I have this line converging to the left vanishing point, because this is the one that created this plane. And now, if I bring a vertical straight down from this corner, I know exactly where that imaginary post ends. And it ends right here. And that's what I used to create the shadow for this corner. So I use the sun's base point through that imaginary post here, through the base, and then I use the sun through the top of that imaginary post, or let's say the corner of that flat, coming all the way down here, so this represents this corner. This represents that corner. And now I just need to connect the two. Like that. Now this isn't going to converge to the trace point that created it, because it is up at an angle. Because this is up at an angle, it's going to be quite wide here. So it's not, because this vanishing point for this is at a trace point, it's elevated, so you can see that the angle of this is going to be, I guess, counterintuitive. You would think that it's going to be at the same angle, but it's not. It's going to have a wider look to it. Okay, so this one back here we do, or this post back here we do exactly the same thing. I already have this line converging to the left vanishing point. The reason why we're using this point here is because this is where this flap is attached to. It's actually attached to this side, and so the angle of this, because the angle of this plane has been created by the left vanishing point, we need to extend this out so we can bring this vertical down, and we're going to do the same thing in the back here. Okay, so there it is, and now we use the sun's vanishing point or base point through that point here. And coincidentally, it does line up with this. It's not supposed to, but I didn't plan on it, but coincidentally it does. And then understand that this corner is represented here, this corner is represented here, and now you can see that these actually line up with the left vanishing point. So let's back up. There. So I line this up with my, sorry, not left vanishing point, right vanishing point. So now I can draw this, I can align this with the right vanishing point, draw these 2 points here. So this represents this edge here. These 2 corners are represented here and here. Now, the one thing I don't have is I don't have a shadow specifically for this corner. So I need to, because I need to know where to connect so I can make this line here. So let me draw this in. Oh, actually, this one's not going to have one. I forgot. Okay, so this is what I want you guys to really pay attention to. I'm going to draw out the shadow specifically for the box itself, and we'll draw this flap after. So this is the outer contours of the base shadow. The shadow for the box itself, not the flaps. Okay, so there's a shadow for it. I think everybody can understand that. This corner is represented here. This corner is represented way over here. Okay. And now we have this one. So this shadow, this is my imaginary post, and it does happen to line up with this corner. It wasn't planned that way, but it does. And now I'm going to draw a line from the sun through the base of that post. I'm sorry, through the top of that post, all the way down here. So this corner is represented here. I think originally I said this one, but that one's not. That was a mistake. Okay. So this corner is represented right here. So So let me make sure I got everything right. That one's working, that one's working. Okay. Okay, so this corner is represented here, like this. And now this corner, or this edge here, if I connect these two, will look like this. Flaps do look a little strange when you see them in shadow. Okay, now we have to think about where this edge went. See, we have this corner, we know it ends here, just using the rules of perspective, we know it ends here. We know this corner is represented here, we know this corner is represented here, but this edge should have a shadow somewhere. Or should it? So we know that this edge, if it was with this, we know that this would actually, this corner would connect to this corner here, wherever the shadow would be for this corner. Well, let's see where this corner would be if it were a standalone post. And hopefully that'll shed some light on why that ends up in that spot. So I'm going to draw a line here through this post here, where those two connect, where this line from the sun hits the top of that post here, and this line from the sun's base point, it ends right here. So that would mean that the shadow for this corner and this corner would connect. So it should connect here. And I'm not sure why it's not connecting. It should connect there, so I'm not sure why it's not doing that. Okay, I'm gonna have to investigate that because I'm not sure why, because it should. All right, let me double check. Let me double check my angles really quick. So let me show you my dilemma. Actually, it's not a dilemma, but okay, this line here, all right, let's say this line here, if we just look at the base shadow, I'll draw this out here using my blue pen. Okay. So as I said before, this edge is represented here. And you can see how these corners are represented here. And we already know where this flap ends here. Now here's the problem with this point right here. This is our imaginary post for this corner. So just following the simple rules of perspective. When this lines up, it is so close to this line that I actually drew my pencil right here to this line. But it doesn't actually work that way. It's actually slightly outward. And so it's kind of the problem when you're using mechanical pencils sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't actually work. So now this corner is represented here. So technically these two should line up to the right vanishing point. But I had put it all the way down here to this line and didn't line up at all. But now it does. So this is where this corner is. So remember when I told you that shadows for flaps look a little bit strange? This is why they look strange. Sometimes they're just so close to the others that they just look a little bit odd. Okay, and then this one actually travels to here. So let's figure out where this one ends. This one ends right here. This one does that. So this little part right here is represented here. It represents this edge here. So if this edge were free floating with nothing else around it, this shadow for this edge would actually be right here. So let's look at what our shadow looks like now. And that is just for the box and this flap. So I like doing these independently with each other because it cuts the problem solving down. Case in point, that little thing right here. Pain in the butt. But it looks right. Okay, last but not least, I have this little flap here. The problem solving with this is exactly the same way. I still need to create an imaginary post for these two corners. And so I'm going to extend this line that created this edge here and here, or that created this plane. I'm going to extend these out, and I'm going to bring a vertical line all the way down to it, like that, here and here. So it ends right there. Okay, so with that, I can draw my shadows. I'm going to draw a shadow for this corner first. So this corner is represented here. And then this corner is going to be represented right here. And now these 2 points I can connect to the right vanishing point. Or really close to it. There we go. Close enough. Need to move it over a smidgen, but it works. Again, these lines are so acute, or these angles are so acute, that sometimes they can be a pain. All right, so I can't just have this floating here. This represents this corner here. This corner is represented here. I have to look to see where they connect here. And this connects to here. So now I just draw a line to it. Here. And this corner is represented here. So now I just connect this one. And there's my flap. So these cast shadows are fairly hard edged. Now in reality, cast shadows the further away it is from the light source, it gets thinner, or it thins out. It's not as crisp. The edges are not as crisp. Okay, so let me make this a little bit darker in here. So I'm sure you didn't realize that drawing those shadows in your beginning drawing class was that complex to actually do it mathematically, but it is. So when you do shadows like this, draw the base of it first. Draw the base of it first, draw the shadow for that base first, and then draw the flaps after, and draw them independently. Because if you have issues like this, you can fix it. Sometimes it's your line thickness, your line weight that you're going to have to make an adjustment to. So let me fix this to add some clarity to it. There we go. And don't worry, I'll do another one so you guys can see it. And this is one of the reasons why we're taking taking an extra day for designing shadows, just to bring just to bring more clarity to it. Oh, let's talk about this too, I guess. The box is open. The box will also have a shadow right here. It's going to be darker on the inside. And I could simply just use this line here as a guide, and that'll be that. So I'm doing this in 2-point perspective. Oh, if you want to make this a square base, you can do that. You need to figure out where your diagonal vanishing point is, though. Let me see, mine is... My diagonal vanishing point is right here. So before I lay this in too far. There we go. You don't need to make this a pyramid shaped base, but I know some people like doing it, so there it is. So I'm going to put a vertical straight up. You know, I might actually make this a little bit shorter, but I think I'll just keep this pyramid shape a little bit short. We'll see how it works. I have a feeling the shadows for this are going to be quite long. So let me double check. If it goes too long, then after that I'll probably shorten it up. Yeah, I'm going to have to make it shorter. There, I'll make it that short. Yeah, I'll run out of room if I don't. So these are going to have a little bit more complex shapes. And the rules of designing shadows is exactly the same. There's no difference. So I'm just going to start here. I'm not going to do anything different with these shadows. They're not going to be any different. I'm still going to follow the same rules that we've talked about. Sometimes it's helpful just to watch. Try not to be concerned with trying to keep up because I'm not doing anything different. I'm not doing anything extra when it comes to, and we're not learning anything new. The concept of doing this stuff is the same. The base point doesn't, the lines from the sun's vanishing point or base point don't go anywhere different except through the base of those objects. The sun always hits the top of the objects. So here's the shadow for this basic box, just like we've done before. Okay, so there's the base shadow for the box. And the peak for this, let's figure out where it is. Let's figure out where the base is since I made this a little bit shorter. Okay, so here's the bottom of this imaginary post, and I created it originally anyway to create that peak. So now I'll use the sun's Okay, now what do you guys notice about the shadows of these two objects in relation to the horizon line? You guys notice?
They get flatter.
They get flatter. All right, they get flatter for the same reason why the planes get flatter the closer they get to the horizon line. Okay, so imagine if this is a real space. The higher an object is, the closer it is, a plane is to your eye level. It's going to get flatter and flatter and flatter. Okay. Yes, we got lines going all over the place, but look what you get. Well, we take baby steps when we do it. We do the base first, and we do the floating corners after. We need a firm foundation to figure out where these things are at. Now, the cool thing is, wherever these corners are, it doesn't matter if it's a corner of the box, or the corner of these floating flaps, or this peak. The problem solving to figure out where those points are, the problem solving is exactly the same. The sun's base point or vanishing point, draw a line from there through the base of each one of those vertical posts. If you don't have a post, like you have with these flaps that are floating, then you make one. Make one using the perspective given to you. So I'm going to add something to this one. Let's see. So I'm going to frame a shape here. And we'll create a shadow for it, or I'm going to. So I have something like this, and we'll see what happens. See what happens if we do this. Keep it kind of simple. Okay, so what if it had a pyramid shape, a smaller one, but maybe a little bit taller, sticking out of the side of it? Let's see if the problem solving would be the same. Now all I did is frame this. You can watch this if you want to. If you want to attempt it, you can attempt it. So I simply framed it, made an X from corner to corner, drew an inside square, and then drew a line from the left vanishing point through its center to create a peak for it. Like that. Okay. So I've never done this before. So I need your guys' help. Now I need to create a shadow for this. What do I do first? What do you think I should do first? I think I know what I should do, but I'm not sure. What do you think I should do? You mean figure out where that post is?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's figure out where the imaginary post would be for this. Okay, we know it's vertical. We know it's vertical. But we don't know when to stop. How do I figure out what the length is? How do I figure it out? No, say it. It's okay.
I guess trace the main block from the sun vanishing point, so you can see how it extends.
Okay, so here's the vanishing point. The vanishing point's over here. Okay, now where do I place it? Right here? And I extend it all the way to here?
It's beyond.
No, from the middle point
What middle point?
of the center of the cube on the bottom.
Center of the cube on the bottom. Oh, you mean this right here?
Yeah, and then you extend it out using the left vanishing point.
Why would I use this?
Because that spike is directly in the middle.
Is it?
I'm trying.
See, the thing is, what if it's not? What if it's not directly in the middle? I understand what you're saying. You guys saw me make an X from corner to corner and then pull this out from the left vanishing point. Okay, so are you right? Yes, you're absolutely right. But what if you're not? So that's, you have to ask yourself, if you were walking into this, or if this was fresh, and it's like, you may not know if this is like 100% centered. So one of the easiest things to do is look at the center of this, drop a vertical line straight down here, and then take that and draw a line from there. Now, are you right? Yeah, it does. It does line up to the middle of this here, but you should use the actual middle of this because that's what you're creating the shadow for. Make sense? And so that goes to here. So there's our post. Right there. Because sometimes these things will be offset and all of a sudden it's not going to be perfectly centered and then it's going to go off. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so there's that. Okay, here's the angle of the shadow, but we need to figure out where that point is, and that point is going to be right here. Okay, so this point is represented right here. Okay, so here's the other thing. Where do I draw it to? I need to draw it to somewhere. Where do you think I draw it to? We know it's going to hit this shadow somehow, but how do we know where? We know that the corners are here, so these also need imaginary posts. I think they do. We're going to try it out. And if we're wrong, no one's going to know. It's going to look right. Oh. I think this is what I would do. I will tell you that even if I was wrong, I'm going to do it anyway. I think it's going to look right. So if this is here, and this is here. Oh, here it is right here. So I'm going to take it to the top of that post, the top of that corner. Oh, I still have to do, yeah, I have to do the same thing. I think this is what I would do. Okay, so this corner would probably be represented here. And one of the reasons why I'm showing you guys this is sometimes you have to try stuff out and see if it works. Okay, so this one hits here. Okay, so the shadow for this is here. The shadow for this is here, but that's not all. I also have this way up here. So I already have this line going through this. I draw a line all the way from here to here. And now the shadow does this. It doesn't look like it's much, but at least I know it's right. Okay, there's the shadow for it. Okay. So the reason why I'm showing you this is to show you sometimes you just have to try things out to see if they work, and it looks like that would work. Oh, so this is what, yeah, this whole side, this whole side would actually be in shadow, except this right here. Part of this would actually be in the light, and we'll figure that out some other time. We'll revisit that, but I at least wanted to show you this. So if you don't have, you don't have to do this little part here, but at least have a little hip roof on this, or pyramid shape on the top of that, and go ahead and draw the shadow for that. All right, so I'm going to draw a simple plane here, but this plane is going to be a little bit different than what we've seen before. Because this one is actually going to have a serrated edge. Or not necessarily serrated, but it's going to have an uneven edge. And we'll see what happens with the shadows. The problem solving for this isn't any different than anything else. I'm going to create posts for all of these verticals because we need to have a post hitting the ground, because the sun's base point is on the ground, or vanishing point is on the ground, or on the horizon line, so it hits anything that's at the base. And so we just hit one at a time. So when you have something like this, you do one line at a time. Or actually, let me get my lines in here again. I erased them all. There we go. So I'll start off on this back side first and draw a line from the sun's vanishing point through this corner, and then another one through the top. And I'll do this one. I'll do the same thing. This one's a little bit different, but I still use the base point, the vanishing point through the base of that post, and then I go through the top of the post. But there's two parts to it. So this corner is represented here, this one's represented here, and these obviously connect to the vanishing point like this. So we know that this corner's here, and this edge is represented there. But we also have this little guy here, which is along this line. And so we use the sun to hit that corner. And we know this is representing this edge here. And we'll do the same thing on this side because it's almost identical. It's identical in size. And you will see how they line up. Okay, so this corner is represented here, this one's represented here. These two connect. So now we can see this S shape. And then this corner is represented way over here. That's lined up with this one. Now we can go on to the next one. So this, because everything is aligned here, this one actually ends here. We could just double check by seeing that. We can see it lines up perfectly. Now these two are also aligned. I could just take a shortcut and do this and just line it up here, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. Just to make sure we're spot on. And there we are, perfect. So this edge is represented here. This edge is represented here. This edge is here. This edge is represented here. This edge is here. We take this all the way down. This edge is represented here. This edge is represented in here. And then we have our last little bit. We have this corner. This corner is represented here, and there's our finished shadow for a complex edge.